Throughout the season of Lent, we have been looking at a disciple's path. We've looked at the path of grace, the path of prayer and scripture, and the path of community. And this week we begin with the path of generosity. Some of us are participating in an online group that's called 40 Bags in 40 Days. And the concept is to get rid of at least a bag of things from your home each day in the 40 days of Lent. Some have been more successful with that than others, but the concept is that as we look around our homes, most of us would quickly find things that we need to dispose of. They may be old papers that need to be thrown out or recycled. They may be clothing that we've either don't like anymore, or maybe never liked at all but bought them anyway, or maybe somebody gave them to you, or they may be that size that you're keeping just in case you ever get back to your high school weight. They may be those bigger clothes that you're saving for when you put weight back on. Those clothes that we keep thinking, someday I'm going to wear this. Or maybe it's clutter in your garages or your tool sheds, or maybe the toys that your children have outgrown, or things they don't even remember they have. And so the challenge is to declutter, to get rid of stuff, to get rid of as much as you can. Yesterday on Facebook, I posted some pictures of things that some I was taking to a consignment shop and some I was taking to Goodwill, and there was a hue and cry among the partnership churches that are having flea markets. No, bring it to our church, bring it to our church. And I assured them that I've already taken about 50 boxes or bags to the Spencer Church, and when Fairhaven starts collecting for their flea market, trust me, I will have more things to bring you. I thought about that as I began preparing for this morning's sermon on generosity. John Wesley, who was the founder of Methodism, was aware that his followers had begun to accumulate things. And one of the reasons was those who became Methodist in that day became to be known for their work ethic and for working hard, and they began to make money and to accumulate things as they were, rising up in the social strata, if you will. And Wesley had some cautions for them. And he began by saying to gain all you can. Gain all you can. I was like, whoa, all right. That's a free pass for those of us who are workaholics and think, if I just work a little harder, I can get more and accumulate more and have more stuff. And so, we read that gain all you can, but Wesley was a very intelligent man, so he knew that he couldn't leave it there. What he said was he understood that our wealth, our money, our possessions are excellent gifts from God. Those things that we have, that money that we accumulate, are gifts from God. Many people will say, well, money is the root of all evil. But if you read that passage, it's the love of money is the root of all evil. It's what you do with that money. And Wesley understood that our money, our wealth, our possessions were things that we could indeed use in the service of others. And so Wesley set some boundaries. He said, gain all you can without hurting your health. Gain all you can without hurting your health, which reminds us that we're not to be workaholics, because we know that people that work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, often have high blood pressure or overweight or diabetes or all the diseases that are a part of that. And so Wesley said, gain all you can without hurting your health. Gain all you can without hurting your mind. Well, how does it hurt my mind? Well, Wesley was cautioning then that we not engage in activities that call us away from our Christian principles. It hurts our mind when we engage in lying or stealing or cheating or defrauding somebody, when we use our desire to gain more that we hurt somebody else, that we don't remember how to share. It's all about me, 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 and it hurts our health. Because we're also to gain all that we can without hurting our neighbor. Without hurting our neighbor. One of the things that I have experienced in others, and there's about literally 7,000, 8,000 people across the world that are part of this online group. And consistently, people have talked about how it makes them feel good to either donate to somebody that's maybe experienced a tragedy like Crystal and her fire. There may be items that we have in our homes that we could easily give to her to help her family rebuild their lives, or to donate to thrift stores or to rummage sales at the churches every chance we get, or sharing that with somebody else. And that makes us feel good about that. But not hurting our neighbor, I think, goes far beyond that. It goes beyond just giving away our extras and feeling like, okay, good, I'm good, I did that. It's also thinking about earlier in the process of accumulating the things that we accumulate, the things that we buy or that we take or get. And that's thinking about, how might this hurt my neighbor? It's thinking about when you go to the store, what store do you go to? Do you go to a place that is exercising fair business practice? Are they paying a living wage to their employees? Are they people that in the manufacturing are manufacturing in safe environments? Or are they using sweatshops or using child labor, especially things made in other countries that don't have the safeguards built in that we have in the United States? If I buy this, if I perpetuate that, am I not hurting my neighbor? This is our one great hour of sharing Sunday, when we remember how we are in touch and everything that we do affects our neighbors, the people near to us but also far away. So Wesley says, gain all you can without hurting your neighbor. And because I've been doing this process, and I've been doing this for about 2 years now, I think more intentionally about what I'm buying. How was it constructed? Where was it made? Is it going to be something that will last, or is it a whim? Wesley encouraged us not to spend our money foolishly. He said, gain all you can, and then he went on to say, save all you can. Anybody ever heard anybody tell them to save while they can? We were taught that as children. We had so much money to put in a little bank that we saved. About a year and a half ago, I went to a seminar for clergy who are, anybody, any age could go, but most of us were in the later years of our career. And it was just done by the denomination, and they were encouraging us to be looking at our retirement funds and beginning to save for that. And I can remember as a young pastor like Pastor Matt, people telling me, oh, you need to be putting this money aside. And I was like, yeah, right, So I came home from that experience, and I said to Matt, I don't care what else you do, you've got to be paying into your MPP, which is one of the part where we can pay in. And he said, oh yeah, Jessica and I've talked about that. No, I said, no, I'm telling you. Because I said, I'm close to retirement. You've got a long way to go, and your money's going to grow more. I don't know that he listened to me, but I hope so. Wesley said, save all you can. And it was not that he was saying to be a miser or to be stingy or a skinflint. What he was saying was to live a frugal lifestyle. Remember that word frugal? It's not a word that we hear very often. Especially in the United States, our culture is all about buying and getting the biggest and the best. But Wesley said live that frugal lifestyle, a Latin word that means trustworthy or prudent. And what he was saying was live a lifestyle in which we are cautious about what we buy, that we buy what we need, not necessarily what we want. Wesley said to be careful about what you're buying and not to buy, not in his words, but translating it, the fads or the latest gimmicks or those things that everybody tries to convince you that you want. Does that sound convicting to you? Do you really need a 72-inch high-definition surround sound screen? Some of the young men are shaking their heads yes. But I guarantee you that the games that we watch, the Steelers, the Pirates, and the Penguins, the score is the same on my little old TV as it is on your 72-inch screen. And if they're losing, I don't want to see it big time. I just want to see the little one. To be thinking about that. And you go in to buy a TV and you might say, I want this size TV, and by the time you come out, you've got this one. Because the salespeople know how to convince you that that's what you need. They know how to market. You go into stores and they're playing nice music. Something that puts you in the spirit, something that calms you. They have special, I always say that anything on clearance, I will stop at least look at. And I look at it and say, not what do I need, but how could I use this? I bet you I could use that for something. Those are some of the things that are now on their way to the flea markets, because I never did figure out a way to use it. And if you put it outside at a sidewalk sale, I'll buy everything on the table. I don't know what there is about that. Wesley says, Sue, step back. Do you really need that? Do you need 17 screwdrivers? I have 2 complete sets of screwdrivers because my father thought I needed them. So every Christmas I would get some more screwdrivers. You use 1 flat and 1 Phillips head, right? That's about all you need. Wesley says, gain all you can, but save all you can, and you got to know what's coming. Give all you can. We gain all we can, we save all we can so that we can give all that we can. So that we can give to the needs that we learn about. That we can give in a way that reflects God's generosity. And our giving is to be done according to what God lays on our hearts. Larry has brought a message to us today and says, here's a woman who lives in our neighborhood, who works at a little restaurant where we have all eaten at least a couple times. They always support our gala. Let me put a little pitch in there for Frank and Shirley. That we have that opportunity to give when God lays those ideas on our hearts. When God puts into our paths those folks with whom we can give. There have been things that I have given away that I have given to somebody who I knew had a need for it. I had some furniture that I had enjoyed and was redoing a room in my house and cutting out, getting rid of things that were in there. And I knew that this young pastor, he's the pastor down at Pine Run United Methodist Church down in Clairton. And so I called Michael and I said, Michael, could you use this furniture? And I told him what I had. And he said, that's exactly what I've been looking for. He just came back from a time as a missionary in the Ukraine, and he had nothing. I had plenty. And so I was able to give to him some things that I needed to get rid of, but that he also needed to receive. Oftentimes when we think about generosity and we think about our lives, we compare ourselves to one another. And usually when we do that, we kind of look at each other and say, well, all right. You know, I did that this morning. I did a disservice to Elaine. And Elaine, I need to apologize to you. She doesn't even know why yet, but she will. You know, most of you are aware that I've been working at getting healthier and stronger so that when we go to Uganda in about less than a month now, that I will do better there in the heat. And so one of the things I've done is I've become more active, and I wear a pedometer. And I did a class with the UPMC through our health insurance, and it was called Get More Active. And so I was talking to the gentleman that was going to be my coach, and he said, well, you know, they assume that they want you to start with 3,000 steps a day. And I said, 3,000 steps a day? And he said, yes. I said, well, I'm already doing 12,000. He said, well, then I guess we need to change the program for you. I now do 15,000 steps a day as much as possible. Elaine was lamenting this morning that she's trying to do 10 steps a day. And instead of my saying to her, 10,000? Isn't that what I say? 10? Oh, 10 steps, 10,000 steps. Yeah, she's got the 10 down. She can do the 10. She's good for that. 10,000 steps a day. And I should have said to her, and I did give her some suggestions on how she might get that in. You know, when I was with the Coleys last Wednesday morning, they all went off to breakfast, and I'd already eaten breakfast, so I started walking around the waiting room. And the people that were there, the other people in the room were asleep, so it was okay. Then they woke up, and Ken and the rest of the family came back, so Betty's friend Elaine walked with me. We walked for 83 minutes. I had my steps in by the time Betty got out of the surgery. I needed to encourage Elaine. It was not generous of me of not telling her and supporting her in that. God calls us to be generous with one another, and we compare to one another. And I was comparing my steps to Elaine's, but I shouldn't have done it. Because, you know, when we compare ourselves to one another, we think, okay, all right, I'm better than so-and-so, so I've got this licked. I'm doing a great job. But the one to whom we were to compare ourselves is God. And we can never be more generous than God has already been with us. Simply being here this morning and recognizing that we're a part of God's family, a part of the community of faith, we recognize God's generosity. Marlene read for us from John 3, the third chapter this morning, and most of us look at that and we think about John 3:16, but I want to look at John 3:17 this morning. Indeed, God did not send His Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through Him. God did not send the world into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through Him. The very God whom we have offended with our sin, the very God whom we have broken a relationship because of the acts that we have done or not done, that's the God who has sent Jesus to us, and His generosity of not coming to condemn us, but to redeem us out of God's generosity. And it's God to whom we compare ourselves, not one another. Most mornings I watch the Today Show when I'm getting ready for the day, and there's always people on the plaza and they have signs that they hold up, and they're usually, it's my birthday or anniversary or first trip to New York City or greeting to family or friends. But last week I saw a sign that I didn't make sense to me. It said, "Without you, I have no mirror. Without you, I have no mirror." Anybody know what that's from? It's a song. I Googled it, and it's from somebody, Marcia's somebody who I have no clue who it is. Again, clueless. But the song was, I couldn't figure out the song. I read through it. But what I saw was a reminder that without God, we have no mirror. Without God, we can't really see ourselves, because we see ourselves in God. God is within us. We are made in God's image, and we are God's creation. And it's only as we look at God that we see ourselves as God sees us. And it's in looking at God I realize that my generosity, no matter how much furniture I give away or other bags that I take places, I can never match God's generosity. But I can do what I can do. God calls us through the words of John Wesley to gain all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. Amen.